I think that the West, if you want to call it that, is at a seminal moment, certainly this country. What hurty word crimes, all that rubbish. These people are not far right, Harry. I think there's something authentic about Nigel Farage.
But joining us in the studio, the uncancelable Jeremy Kyle.
The uncancelled. I have been sat. This is an honour to be in your. This is lovely, isn't it?
Well, normally, for the connoisseurs, normally Jeremy is sitting in this seat and I'm sitting over there. But how the tide has turned. Jeremy, Nigel Farage there saying that he's worried about the state of the West. We are here to save the West. How would Jeremy Kyle save the West?
I think it's really interesting if you listen to what Nigel said, that the views that he had as a kid were considered mainstream, and now some would like to tell you that those are outrageous views. I've watched, listen, I've been at Talk 3 years. I was involved with Nigel and Reform at the party conference some weeks ago.
Yeah, we'll get on to that in a moment, yeah.
But I would say this, and I've said it for as long as I can remember, really. I think that the West, if you want to call it that, is at a seminal moment, certainly this country. I don't think it works anymore for our Prime Minister or institutions on what we know is the left to say anybody that wants to complain about free speech, about the immigration problems, about the NHS, about our military, about our tax situation, about our police, what hurty word crimes, all that rubbish. These people are not far right, Harry. That march at the weekend wasn't 100,000 people as the mainstream media would have you believe. It was a lot more than that. And I don't think Starmer standing up and saying these are all far right nutters works anymore. I think there's far too many people, and I voted Reform. I've made no secrets in the last election because for one reason and one reason only. I was brought up Tory family, low taxation, all the things that you know about, strong military, strong police, all of that. I remember watching a Tory MP in the last election saying, when Farage was talking about those things, oh, my God, this is far right. It's not far right. The Conservative Party, I believe, moved left. He speaks
there's that great graphic, isn't there, where it's sort of the Conservatives stand still. Yeah. And they get more, and the left goes further and further and further and further, and their views haven't changed. The left look like far right from where they're standing.
Completely, and I get. With any argument, there will be far-right people. With any argument, there will be far-left people. But Nigel Farage, and I felt it in Birmingham and I feel it every single day on the show, is representing millions of hard-working, just people who perhaps were never invested in politics but have finally gone, and I've said it to you a million times, I pay my tax, I live within the rules, I've never asked for a handout, and I feel now like I'm 28th in the queue, and that doesn't work for me anymore.
You're told to sit down, be quiet and pay up.
Absolutely.
That's what I think.
And then you look at people who shouldn't get that and you go, I'm not racist, but hold on a minute, you've not paid and you're at the front of the queue.
There's obviously a sort of feeling in it. Reform are at 30% in the polls in the UK. Nigel Farage there was talking about how the American administration were acutely aware of that. If a general election was held tomorrow, Nigel Farage would in all likelihood be our Prime Minister. Is it, in your view, a particularly unique talent of Nigel Farage that is attracting voters, or is it the fact that after 14 years of Tories, people have fed up with that, they wanted change, they've got Labour have come in, there's been a disaster, and people have said, well, keep that change, we don't want that. And actually, it's a last roll of the dice, really. It's almost,
it's a combination.
What have we got to lose?
I think it's a combination. I think the thing about Nigel Farage is he's authentic.
Yeah.
I get it. For me, it's in his DNA, which it isn't with Starmer. He can smell it, feel it, sense it. He's got antennae politically. He seems to be talking about things that people are concerned about. It's not based on what a focus group tell you. It's based from inside. But he doesn't read to Kemi Bednott asks questions via note form. That's fine for some, but Farage does it and does it from inside. I think that resonates with people. I think the other point you make is entirely relevant, that for the first time in our history, I think people are going, so we go from this to that, we make this, break that, put it up again, left, right, left, right. People's argument always about Farage and Reform now is, are they experienced enough?
Yeah.
You've got a Labour front bench who have never, ever worked
run a work stall. Yeah.
Nothing. Farage, Richard Tice, these people have run successful businesses. Of course, their infrastructure isn't what the Tory party's is. And of course, that will take time. But I think the British people are saying, do you know what? Could it be worse than it is right now?
And actually, is it not a feeling, if you look at what Donald Trump's done across the pond, and our credo of the show, as we've discussed, is, what is Britain getting right? What is Britain getting wrong? What's America getting right? What's America getting wrong? And where can we learn from each other? Donald Trump, first term, he brought in a load of politicians, essentially.
Absolutely.
They basically acted like politicians. This time round, he's filled his cabinet with people who actually are experienced in their field. They are not necessarily creatures of Washington. They have come in from the outside, from business. Scott Bessent, the perfect example, the Treasury Secretary, he has run varying degrees, multi-billion-pound hedge funds. He has made a very successful career out of that. And he knows Wall Street inside out. He knows the Fed inside out. He knows the rules inside out. Compare and contrast, say, dare I say it, Rachel Reeves, who may or may not have worked in the complaints department at HBOS or wherever it was. Can you see Farage? He's saying that, but is Britain ready is the political class in Britain ready to open up to outsiders? Because
who are the political class? What do
you mean? You know who they are: the BBC, the Guardian, the Chatterati, the people that go on.
I don't think they're going to have a choice.
Go on other shows other than Harry
I've spoken to Nigel about this, genuinely in great detail, and I think there's a great belief within reform that you can. What are they going to do? Sit and wait for everybody to come from the Tory party? No. It shouldn't be a rest home for disgruntled Tory ex-ministers. For me, if you could take people from business, if you could take people with experience, if you could take people who have actually lived...
From the media,
well,
perhaps?
whatever, yeah, maybe, one day. But if you could do that, Henry Bolton's a great example. He's a border enforcement expert. They won't even talk to the guy. The guy's done it across Europe. The governments, repeated governments won't talk to him. For me, it's really, really simple. You would get a cabinet or a government of experienced people. One thing about reform right now, they've got lawyers working already on how they're going to prepare. Now, maybe they will be the government, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But right now, he says and listens to the right people, says the right things, and seems to be... But the criticism will be... I've heard the Tories say, that reform's new and it hasn't got the infrastructure. I'm telling you that the majority of British people will go, could it be worse than we've got right now?
Do you think Nigel Farage is the man to do it?
Yes, 1,000,000%.
You have any idea how... the cacophony of noise that will be greeted by an election campaign of someone who's saying, not only are we going to leave the ECHR, we're going to tear up the Equalities Act, we're going to put the Human Rights Act, which enshrines all of the ECHR legislation into our legal system. You can just imagine, you can see it already to the charity sector, the public sector.
I think it'd be very hard. It's the blob, everybody.
But in order to do that, you've got one shot at that.
Well, I've asked this question repeatedly, and I've said, let's just imagine the scenario where Nigel Farage wins the next election with a majority. And I've said it to Tyson, I've said it to Nigel. You talk about the power of the blob. They talk about, how institutions...
What Donald Trump in the United States calls the swamp, the deep state.
10,000 civil servants who seemingly make decisions for an democratically elected government. I would say this. Right now, as a voter... He's the only one, I believe, personally, that would be prepared to have a go. Does he succeed? I don't know. But for me, Harry, it's really simple, right? So why Trump won in America? It's a simple theory that some people just turn their noses up. Donald Trump puts in front of the American people his plan. He knows full well that a lot of people in America won't agree with that.
48% of the country.
But he's going to say, if a majority wanted, let me tell you something, legally, anybody that tackles me, legally, papers, mainstream media, I'm doing it for the 52%. Now, I am looking for somebody in the United Kingdom who says, here I am. I'm not your perfect human being.
If you don't like it, don't vote for me. Vote for the other guy.
I said to him the other day, they'll come for you. And he went, somebody had rung him up, some journalist, and gone, Nigel, have you gambled? Have you smoked? Have you womanised? Have you gambled? And he went, all four. Write that. Because we are sick to death of politicians who pretend to be squeaky clean and 3 months later they're caught with their trousers down. I think there's something authentic about Nigel Farage. It might be him, it might not, but I think this country is crying out for a Nigel Farage.
That it is, though, and we're going into a stage where the politics is returning to the streets rather than to think. My worry is that a reform government would come in, it would meet the exact same institutional roadblocks that David Cameron found, Theresa May found, Rishi Sunak, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss will park. But and now even Keir Starmer looks the worst prime minister in history. Even Keir Starmer, jury's out on that.
Nearly.
Keir Starmer is, it's taken him about 3 months into office before he goes, oh God, all of these people who said the system is broken were correct. What happens when Nigel Farage, being that outsider bet, that one last roll of the dice, give it a go, when he then hits the roadblock?
Well, then we're finished, aren't we?
Well, that's bad. But that's
part of what I'm saying to you. Do you not think the majority of British people might just go, Is there anything to lose? Maybe it's a new... I don't know if it's him. It could be the Greens,
or do we go to where the situation in Germany, the situation in France, where politics is getting more polarised and more extreme, the rise of the hard left, the rise of the far right. I don't think that's a particularly... that is something we want to avoid. We're quite blessed in this country that the hard right and the hard left in this country are essentially clowns.
Maybe I'm wrong. I completely agree with you, and there is nothing about the far right or the far left that warms me in any way. But we need principled, firm, hopefully, decision-making. You're right.
Yeah.
Farage might win a majority. He might come up against the swamp, the blob, whatever you want to call it, and actually fall on his backside. But I just believe that... Somebody sent me a message the other day, and I thought it was really interesting. They said, Jez, in my humble opinion, once the silent majority start to realise that their voice can be heard, the government of any colour is in trouble. I think that people in this country, and I think that march, it's very easy for the government to go, 100,000 people, they're all far right and there were 25 arrests. Not to mention in Notting Hill, 500 arrests, but let's get to the facts. I just think people will go, can we be any worse off if we gave these people a chance?
You've been on the... you've been through the mill.
Yep.
You've bounced back. You've been a commentator or an observer. You've been in the media for decades. You've seen it up close. It's starting to feel to me you're ready to be the man in the arena.
Really? Listen,
you were at the Reform conference last week. You hosted it. Did you get a flavour of that? Do you like that?
I'm very honest about that, and I think maybe also it's to do with being really old. 60. You're supposed to say, "I don't look it, Harry." Brilliant. Let's crack on.
I was told never to be afraid of dead air.
Hey, good boy. Who told you that? He's learning.
Producer Vic is
dead
clapping.
air. Yeah, well done, Vic. Great. I would say this. For the first time in my life, I'm thinking about my kids and my grandkids. I think this country is not on a precipice. I'm not saying that, but I think we are at a
crossroads, a turning point.
A crossroads, a seminal moment or a turning point. And I don't believe that the majority of people, if they get off the ideological BS that runs on right and left, if you said to them, what needs changing in this country? We have spent years, quite rightly, in the United Kingdom doing everything for everybody, and quite rightly we should, with the moral leaders. But suddenly with, whether it's COVID or a cost of living crisis, people are going, food's gone up, electricity's gone up.
You sound like a politician, Jeremy Kyle. Just tell us, are you running or not?
We'll see.
Politicians answer.